growing weary of running from room to room, practicing one-tooth insurance-driven dentistry? Then stay tuned for the latest episode of The Lionhearted, where Dr. Stephen Rasner will hand you the blueprint for what many call the gold standard of general practice dentistry.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Steve Rasner here with another episode of The Lionhearted. As I say every beginning of every podcast, if you please want more information, then reach out to me at Dr. Rasner at AOL, DrRasner at AOL. Or you can look up where I'm speaking or look up what courses I'll be offering this year. I'm only telling you that in case you're interested in my courses. I want you to take anybody's course and make this commitment that I keep asking you to make, to take this profession to the level that you're capable of taking it to, not just accepting stinking toxic insurance payments and, walking with your shoulders down and not being satisfied with this 8-year commitment you've just made, between college and dental school. So go on, you can do this. And that's what I'm here to help you do. You can see where I'm speaking at the Rasner Institute. That's my name, Rasner, institute.com. And please, I mean it. I wouldn't tell you this if I wasn't interested. Reach out to me with any questions or topics you want me to speak upon. If I don't know the answers, I'll tell you I don't know the answers. You know what I want to talk about today? Today, I want to talk about why I think you don't get as much case acceptance as you would like. And I'm going to tell you right now why I think that is. I think for a lot of you, you are either intimidated by presenting a treatment plan that somebody that called your office for a specific issue. And to take a second cornerstone of the blueprint for success I'm trying to have you achieve, and I know it works. There's just too many of you that have related back to me now over the 20 years I've been doing this, and certainly since this podcast, that it's working for you. And the second cornerstone is, God forbid, that you get paid up front, because I do believe that is an absolute fulcrum for you to achieve many other things, not the least of which would be cash flow, which gives you the ability to do lots of other things, including taking courses that are essential to your success. I mean, this is a lifetime commitment. You can achieve it at extremely high level. And once you put all the factors in place, it doesn't seem that overwhelming. It does in the beginning. I get it. Oh my God, I can't take a course. I can barely save any money now. I understand that thinking. But there's ways around that. And I've talked about them at other podcasts, particularly the last few podcasts. But before I get into the meat and potatoes of this today, I do want to say to you that be sure that you seek out mentors, whether it's me on this podcast or Gary Takis or other people that do podcasts. You have that advantage that a lot of guys in my generation didn't have, and you should use it. And you should even, you're going to meet people at courses, and, not everybody, but some of them actually enjoy, like me, mentoring you, as much as our time allows. And you may say, well, I always hear this. What is he talking about? What's the big deal? The big deal is not reinventing the wheel yourself. How do you know what to pay hygiene, for example? Do you pay them a percentage? I saw something online not too long ago where a young dentist astutely asked the question in a forum that he was in, that he pays his hygiene team on production. And is that an okay method? That's what he was asking. And, just as an example, like, how do you know the answer? No, it's not okay. Because for most of you that accept insurance, production's a fake number. It'd have to be at least net production, or it'd have to be on collections. And just, maybe you need to pay them hourly. And I've done a lot of all the above over the last 39 years. So that's one of the advantages of when I say you need a mentor. What courses should you take? You know, what, and by the way, if you ask me that, I'll send you a recommended residency if you write to me. And that residency is completely unbiased. It's based on who I truly, authentically think would move your needle in the right direction the quickest way. You know, what about ads? I mean, I once had a guy, a fellow colleague, asked me, recommended me that I use this TV commercial ad, which I paid 50 some $1,000 for, which sounds like a lot to me. Even today it does. And this was 25 years ago. And I got news for you. It was a beautiful ad. And I got two patients. No, I got no patients from that one. You know, or I went on the radio 4 years ago, and I'm not telling you to go on the radio. I'm telling you, you have to listen to my podcast on the radio on marketing and follow those rules. And I don't know. I thought that maybe I would go on ESPN. That's what I did. ESPN cost me $22,000 for 6 weeks, and I got two patients from that. I've got abundant patients from a local radio show that I advertise on. Not a show. I'm on the radio 5 times a day, sponsoring the weather for 1 minute. It's me speaking, talking like I'm talking to you, just colloquial, trying to instill the thoughts in my community of 3 things: trust, confidence, trust that you can trust me, that I will tell you, don't do anything if you can't do it this way, or just take out that tooth for now and come back later, then do a recommended compromise that I don't think you'll like in this case. That's what I mean by trust. I talk just like that on my radio ads. But I've also made mistakes, as I just alluded to. So that radio spot I'm talking about that I'm on 5 times a day, 5 days a week, cost me $900 a month. Well, naturally, you're not going to get that from a major radio station, which I'm not advocating you do. I'm advocating you go to the less listened to stations, maybe in your community. Okay? So that's what I mean, again, by having mentors to give you the right advice. And the more mentors you have, the better. How about labs? How do you know right now? We all have like 2 or 3 labs we use, right? We have the lab when we want an interior case to be out of the park, and we're going to pay more for that case. But we don't normally use that for every crown we do because it's less demanding in the posterior, as long as we have real good marginal integrity and you have a good lab. But let's say you're paying whatever you're paying. How do you know? How would you know that that is the most return for your buck unless you talk to a host of other people and try out other labs along the way? So I think you get my drift. I don't want you to go through your career like I did most of my career. I mean, I had mentors, but I took too long to find them. And so understand that. I want you to do that. Let's go back to the topic of the podcast, which is, I said at the beginning that I think one of the reasons you're not where you want to be is because, number one, you haven't put enough into your treatment planning shtick. So that's what I mean by this, is that moment of truth. A new patient's called you a few days ago, a week or 2 ago. They went through a process you have in your office, and I have multiple podcasts on this subject, as I do products on my Dream Store on, if you go to Rasner Institute. But that's not why I'm telling you. I'm not telling you this so you'll go buy that, although they're not bad, by the way. They're very good. I'm telling you this because there is a process from the moment they call you that impacts that moment when you walk in the room. Do you have a significant other in that room as much as possible? Do you ask for that every time a new patient calls that indicates significant need? Well, just that little tweak would have a big impact. How can you present treatment plans that are north of $5,000 to most couples, to most patients that don't have the where the significant other hasn't heard you. And no, you're not going to get 100% just by asking to do that. But if you don't ask, you're never going to get that. Just that tweak right there. When somebody calls and asks for and indicates significant need of some sort. Oh, I haven't been to the dentist in years. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. This is a really hard phone call for me to make. Oh my God, you're going to retire on my mouth. Whatever they say that indicates need, you need to have the rap together. And if you don't know it, write to me. I give this stuff away weekly. I didn't used to, but I do now. And ask, how do you say that? How do you get people to go out of network, which is almost everyone for me? And the worst thing you could be having your front desk, in my opinion, saying to a new patient that calls out of network is, we don't take your insurance. Because you're implying that they can't come to you, but they can come to you. Now there's curveballs if you're not in network that you have to work around. They'll get paid less per service by coming to you out of network than they would if they stayed in network. Do you not think they're on a bevy of patients that would go out of network and have your services if you offered it, if you had a shtick down to say to them? And do we get everybody to come out of network? We're out of network with everybody but one insurance, and we'll be out of network with that one and soon. And I don't want to get into that. That's not the point of the podcast. But that moment when I walk into the room and you walk into the room, be honest, are you intimidated to present a treatment plan? Do you think the patient will freak out on you because no one called you and asked, can I have a treatment plan? But this is the way I have practiced. I remember when I thought it was going to be a leap to not clean their teeth on the very first visit of a new patient coming to me. I thought I would lose a lot of patients because that was not a guarantee in my office. I remember it 25 years ago, that moment of changing the way we did things. Listen, come on, man. If you're listening to me, and this is your first podcast, then go back to the treatment planning podcast. They're all over the podcast over the last year. I'm an advocate of comprehensive treatment planning, period. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to accept everything I say. In fact, most of the time they probably can't. I'm also an advocate of phasing treatment in if you can, which you can most of the time. So I'm just saying, if you think, I really couldn't have a stronger opinion about this. If you think the right approach is to bring them in, focus on exactly why they called you, a broken tooth, a tooth that needs a root canal, and you you recommend that because you're intimidated and scared that they'll think you're trying to get in their pocketbook, by recommending examining their whole mouth. First of all, how can you even recommend the proper treatment without knowing the whole mouth? Are you going to do root canal and a crown on a tooth that's got a 45-degree angle on it because that's where the pain's coming from because the tooth in front of it's been missing? What if they need perio? What if they had 12 other less costly, less invasive restorative procedures they needed, and by doing the one root canal and crown, that prohibited doing the others because cost was a factor. Cost is almost always a factor with the patients I see on a daily basis. It's almost always a factor. So I always have to phase treatment in a responsible way, which, yes, that takes some talent. But what I'm saying to you, don't be afraid to readapt the mentality that patients need a comprehensive treatment plan, no matter what they call it for you, because nobody calls with that request. So you need to embrace that. You need to get over the fear of that, and you need to go back to my podcast that address that. And I have multiple written blogs, one's called The First 2 Minutes of Meeting a New Patient, like what you should be doing. There's another, and there's books I've written on this, on what you should be doing before that even happens, before they even get to your office. We have protocols that manage my office. A protocol, when I say that to you, is, to me, it's the way we do things. So there's a protocol for how the new patient is managed before they even get to my office, so that I never have to again in my career, I said again because it's happened, I never have to hear a patient, my hygienist, come to me and say they won't let me take a full set of x-rays, or they don't want you to examine their whole mouth, they just want this one tooth pulled. No, I never hear that. I have in my career, because it's all laid out. If a patient won't even allow you, a patient has called your office, they want your services, whatever that may be, a cleaning, a smile makeover, I don't care, and they won't even allow you to take a comprehensive set of x-rays, models, whatever you need, and do an exam, then they're out. We will try to educate them via the phone as to what the benefit of that is. We try to encourage them, if they haven't been in a while, as I've already said, to bring a significant other. So that's that part of this podcast. This is just a kick in the butt to you. If you're not doing this and you're struggling, you're not doing as well as you want to do, you need to believe me. You need to believe that this is the right approach. It is. Forget the fact that you'll be busier and that you'll reap all the rewards of all that. It's good dentistry. It's the way it's supposed to be done. Otherwise you're going to have a practice of one tooth, myopic, insurance-driven care, and you're going to burn out quickly. And you may be probably a great clinician, some of you for sure, that will sadly fail because you didn't have the courage to do the right thing. I need you to look in the mirror and be sure that you've embraced this. And the second thing that goes right with that is getting paid up front. I have a mindset, so I want you to hear me. My mindset is anybody that calls my office is getting a comprehensive treatment plan. If you want the definition of that with me, go back in my podcast. They're all over the place. 2, that we're going to get paid up front. Why? Because I'm greedy? Absolutely not. I have done both ways. I have spread out the payments. I have done everything I can think of that you can think of as a different payment arrangement. Here's how I feel. When you get paid up front, and if you have that shtick down, and it's not a trick. We're not tricking the patients into paying us up front. It's not what I'm talking about. It is better for the patient. Because when the patient convinces you, and you convince yourself, that you can make this happen over the next 15 months with 15 different payments, something's going to happen in their life that's going to supersede the importance of the level of the step that you're on, and you're going to get a lot of unfinished treatment. And guess who's going to be the bad guy? You. I've done it. And you know what I'm talking about. Everybody listening has a crown somewhere in the lab that you forgot that the patient didn't even come back. You prepped it, took the impression. Maybe they paid you $250 of the $1,000 that you charge. They broke 1 or 2 appointments. They have a nice temporary in place. And you forgot. Maybe they forgot. I don't know. And they show up that one day without the temp in their mouth years later. And this magical trick occurs. Your explorer can now go through the abutment because it's mush. And now the tooth needs endo or extraction. And consider that on multiple tooth levels, not just one tooth. No, getting paid up front really is saying to you that this patient will make that commitment. Now, if you want to divide it into 3, that's my limit. A third, a third, and a third. And the last third is way before you're done. And what you'll notice amongst everything else is you'll get much less broken appointments by doing this. It is the way I have done it for probably at least 25 of the 39 years I've been in practice. So you have to trust me. There's no downside to it. But you have to embrace it. And you can't just turn the switch on Monday without preparing for having an educated response. But here's the takeaway today. It's the mindset of you that you do comprehensive treatment plans. Not because you're greedy and want to rack up a lot of dentistry. No. Or that you're going to get paid up front for the same reasons that you're greedy. No. It really is best for that patient and best for you. You don't want to start work that you can't complete. There's a myriad of patients walking out there right now in temporary partials, not the final restoration. A temporary crown and not the final restoration. Incomplete root canals. I don't want you to become a part of that. And that's why the purpose of this podcast was they're the fundamental cornerstones in the beginning. Embracing comprehensive treatment planning. Now, if you don't know comfortable with that, you need to take courses on what it is that you are treatment planning. And we need to have some more, and I do have good podcast on this. We have to more dialogue as to, well, what way do you go? How do you know which way? I mean, do you recommend, extensive, complicated cases that require that for every single patient? No, some of those patients, what I do, it's a real balancing act from me doing this for a lot of years, asking questions, looking at the 5 areas I keep telling you about, the health of the periodontium, every individual tooth, missing tooth, occlusion, joints and muscles, and their aesthetic concerns if there are any. I know I just said that really quick. And then asking them, and it just falls into place for me. And look, I would expect there to be a lot of follow-up questions to this particular podcast, and I want them to be. This is not a little thing. It's a big thing. I hope this helped you a little bit this week. Tune in next week. One thing I'm going to be talking about soon, I keep saying that, is a treatment planning approach called Put the Fires Out. The Putting the Fires Out treatment plan. And that's for the patient that can't afford everything that you're recommending, but they're not a denture patient either. And it's something in between. And it's got a lot of validity, and I'd like to discuss that with you in upcoming podcasts. Write to me about what you want to hear, and I'll give it my best. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you're using some of these principles, and stay tuned to the Lionhearted.